What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Apex Uncut with myself and, of course, my great co-host, Zach Mazer. And today, we got an amazing guest, Hodsic, who is a former pro player in Apex. He's basically been around since day one and is now a coach, and actually one of the first coaches ever in the scene. So we're super excited to talk to him. How you doing, Hodsic?
I'm doing well. Just got back from a little trip to LA, so I'm feeling good, feeling refreshed.
Nice, good. How you doing, Zach?
I just streamed 10 hours of League of Legends because Apex is unplayable due to cheaters. So I went 11-8 on the day. So I'm doing good.
Decent
That's
games.
a good day. That's a good day in MOBA
Well,
terms.
I actually started out 2-6 and then brought it back all the way to 11-8. So I'm on a high right now. But if you talked to me like 7 hours ago, just don't talk to me. Holy
Were you
shit.
playing with Mac? You guys doing it up?
I played like the first 8 hours solo queue, which was something. Then the last 3 hours or last hour or so was with Mac.
Awesome. Well, we got a lot of topics to go through today, guys. We're going to be going over a bunch of drama that happened over the last week. You know, iLootGames, Daltoosh, but we're going to talk about that stuff a little later. First, I want to jump into Hodsic and kind of, you know, how you got into the scene and how you got to where you are today. So just go ahead and take the floor, man.
Yeah, try to keep it as brief but descriptive as possible. Played Apex since very first day. Heard rumors of VR coming out from EA like 2 days before it actually came out. Been playing since day one, participated in all the classic Q-Snipe scrims, played with a lot of people around the scene in like early teams when people were trying to figure things out. Got signed to the Pittsburgh Knights probably like a couple months before Poland. We did all right. I mean, there weren't too many tournaments back then. It was just kill races. But then Poland came around, had a terrible first day. Only got like 4 points and instantly dropped the losers bracket. Yeah, it was one of those things where like, yeah. So
Zach,
it's just
were you at Poland or no?
Yeah.
What was that event like, guys? Like, that was the first
Fucking
big
incredible.
one, right?
It was like
Apex would be one of the biggest esports in the world if they were able to mimic Poland for a whole year straight and do it 4 times a year, with one of them being a championships or an even bigger event. It would be an absolutely massive esport right now.
I will never forget Poland.
100,000, 150,000 Andy every time it gets to finals day. I promise,
How many players and teams were there? Because there was more than 20, right?
It was 80 teams.
80.
Holy crap, that is insane.
40 players. Yeah.
What was the setup like? Like with all
it was actually beautiful. It was actually really well done. Like so,
I gotta take a look at it.
Yeah, they had 2 stages. It was in the middle of
insane.
nowhere in Poland, but like the venue was nice. It was Alvernia Studios, I think.
Yeah.
There were 2 stages. One main stage where all of the recording and all like the actual streaming was taking place, and then one side stage where just games were being played. The side stage wasn't bad, but it was just like a room where you played and you had
side
boxes.
stage was like imagine a side stage was like 20 CS:GO booths. Think of it like that.
Yeah,
or like the main stage was like crazy.
It was actually, dude, I remember walking up those stairs into the room the first time, and I was like, holy, like I did not expect them to go this crazy on like the very first LAN. Like that's kind of like when I saw the stage the first time, that's kind of how I knew like
this is the game.
Like they're taking it seriously. This is not like, they definitely took their time with this, and it got me very excited for the future.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, go ahead and continue, man.
Yeah. So I had a terrible first day. Like LAN jitters. I don't know about you, Zach, but it was like much harder to hear anything on LAN, like just in general in the game, like because we had to play with earbuds, and earbuds, I think the audio balancing in Apex is weird with earbuds, personally. But yeah, so we dropped to instantly losers bracket first day, 4 points. We're very gloomy. I remember driving back to our Airbnb thinking like, what am I actually like cut out for this? Like, what am I doing? Am I wasting my time? I think my teammates kind of felt the same way. We didn't really talk much. Woke up the next day. Didn't really talk much. We just kind of drove, and we were like, all right, well, let's make something happen. We didn't have like a big pep talk or anything, but we started the first game, instantly won. Was like a really big win too, and that just kind of was like the theme for the day. The rest of the day, we went through like the next 3 brackets, and we like slammed all of them. Did really well, and then we unfortunately just we got contested losers bracket finals. We didn't make it. We ended the tournament at like 27th, 28th, something like that. But still an awesome experience. I mean, I'm sure Zach and anyone who was there will agree. Poland was literally like a life, like that's a life memory right there. It was just incredible to see everybody for the first time.
You said you went back to your Airbnb. Was that supplied by your org, or did EA also provide everybody Airbnbs?
EA supplied all, like, I think the top 20 teams. They basically all the big orgs, because the Pittsburgh Knights, aren't like the biggest org. they supplied like the Liquid, the TSM. They supplied all of them with a hotel, and they paid for that. But our org covered the Airbnb. But there were a lot of people that went there. There were a lot of people that went there. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So,
okay, I didn't know that. Because originally I was thinking 80 teams. That must have costed a lot.
There was EA was offering financial aid. They were being very nice about the situation, if I remember correctly. They were offering financial aid for the free agent teams that got their slot and were going out. And all those people that got the financial aid and the big orgs that did get paid for were all downtown Krakow is where they stayed, and it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like a hell of an event. But yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah. And then pretty much after that, still kept competing. Played the next big tournament, I think after that was GLL 25,000 Cup. This is before we had customs. So, and this one was an invitational, which basically they invited all the tier 1 teams. And then I think correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, 2 teams qualified through a kill race. I was one of the teams with Decop and Solved. I don't even remember who the other team was. We placed 4th there, which was really good. And in my opinion, the birth of one of the best competitive Apex clips you'll ever see, which was I don't know if you remember
this, with a Devo.
No, PK.
PK, my bad.
Yeah, we were basically. Long story short, you can probably find it somewhere out there. But basically, long story short, It was like the top. It was a end zone, right, like near.
It's where staging was.
Yeah, where staging was. And we were all live. It was like a top 8-team situation. Circle was super tight.
Dude, this clip is insane.
Me and Solve go down. Just trying to get into the zone, and Decop literally gets 9 kills and wins the game in like that tight ass it was the old Apex circles where it would just come down to a pin drop.
That's crazy.
And it was basically all the teams piling, and you just look at the kill feed. I mean, it's TSM, it's Sentinels, it's NRG, it's Rogue, it's all of the really, really good teams, and Decop literally kills 9 people and wins the game.
He's on Complexity now, right?
No, he's in Valorant now, actually.
Oh, he's in Valorant.
Rip. Yeah.
I do.
That's one person.
I actually played pro Overwatch with Decop. I was on a team with him at one point.
Yeah, Decop's one guy. I wish Decop would come back just because I love having him in the scene. He's just such a
dickhead. He's a goober.
But so that was like that tournament. Yeah, we played that and whatnot. But then somewhere down the line, the Knights kind of lost interest in Apex. My team and I went our separate ways. Not because we started to kind of grow apart in terms of playstyle together. But then I eventually left because I realized it was hindering my chances at finding other teams as well. Texas qualifiers came around last year. Didn't manage to get a decent team because I kind of got to looking for team stage too late. Everybody was already teamed up. Didn't qualify, and that's when I was like, I just really wanted to go to LAN. I remember what Poland was like. I didn't want to pay for it myself, so I was like, yo, I'll coach teams. Anyone out there that qualified, if you want to coach, hit me up. I just wanted to make it to LAN, and I was trying any way possible, again, without paying it for it myself. So I tagged along with the Golden Guardians because I remember I did a VOD review of them. This is when I started doing VOD review content on YouTube, and people really liked it. I VOD reviewed them because people were mad at them because they apparently griefed Sentinels out of their qualification spot. But basically, and I was and I did a very in-depth analysis basically of what happened in their tournament. Did they actually grief Sentinels? All this stuff. And they really liked the way I VOD reviewed it, and they asked if I wanted to coach them. So I was like, sure. Golden Guardians flew us out to LA. To boot camp the very next day, the Texas or the EA announced Texas qualifier or Texas LAN is just done. COVID happened, it's canceled. So we just basically got a free LA trip out of it. And then basically fast forward a couple tournaments. I was just kind of going team to team, just trying to make something happen. And then online tournament 3 was about to happen. 2 days before it started, Nocturnal asked me from Liquid. It was like, hey, do you know any analysts in the scene that would want to maybe try out? Because they had one, but they weren't happy with them. And I was like, I'd be down if you don't mind. So I coached them for 2 days. I changed a lot of the way they played, a lot. I kind of turned them into a lot of Liquid is known as the sniper team, the really annoying sniper team, and that's pretty much kind of my doing. I turned them into that because I just saw the way they played. It just made sense to use long range and snipers.
So annoying.
Yeah, so I basically turned them into that. You're welcome. And they won online tournament 3, and it was the tournament that they actually dethroned TSM's winning streak. So that was basically the easiest tryout of my life in terms of do they want to sign me? Instantly got signed. And then I've basically just been coaching them for the past year, subbing here and there and whatnot. And obviously now we're kind of looking at what's ahead for season 2 of ALGS. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's a little TLDR of me.
Are you happy with being a coach, or do you ever like
No,
get the itch that you want
no,
to go and compete?
I'm actually not. I never have been. I enjoy doing it, but is it what I want to do? Absolutely not. It's one of those things where I chose to do it to make ends meet. At the time that I was competing at the Knights, I wasn't exactly like, like rolling in it. Like I wasn't doing bad, but I wasn't necessarily like secure, if that makes sense. So I basically accepted a coaching role because I got to be on a tier 1 org, also one of my actual favorite orgs ever since like, just growing up watching esports. Team Liquid has actually been one of my favorite orgs. So I got a chance to be on a dream org, coach, and basically get a paycheck, some security
What do
for
you
a
want
couple
to do?
years. I want to be a player.
That's what you want to be a player.
Yeah,
Who
absolutely.
are you capable of playing and coaching at the same time? Do you believe like G Dolphin does, or no? Not well. You're not capable of giving
Not
like full effort.
Not, I probably could. I would love to do a G Dolphin gig, right? Because the reason G Dolphin's able to coach and play is because he coaches a team for a region that he can't even compete in, at least online, right? So he competes in EU, coaches NA. I would love to do that, but obviously we have an NA team, so
Just kind of conflicting interests.
yeah, a little bit. So we're currently in talks internally on like what we're doing in general. Obviously, we have to pick up a third. Um, I also am in a bit of a transition period of like what I want to do, and I'm talking to the org as well about my options. Because ideally, my ideal is be like kind of do like what like Mac is doing or Fun or any of those guys that are signed. They're very good. They make content and then they compete whenever a competition's around. And I kind of just want to like I would love to embody or like get into that, just compete and make content, like make more YouTube content, all that type of stuff. So that's kind of where I'd like to be and kind of where I'm in talks with. So I might be going back to competing because actually, like, I don't know if this sounds weird at all, but I feel like coaching for the past year and like, watching every other team's VODs that I can find, learning from like other teams and seeing, like applying that to my team, all this stuff, like really critically thinking about the game. I feel like it's actually made me such a better player now than when I was competing.
Yeah, you'd probably be one of the smarter players once you got back into it. It'd be interesting
Yeah,
to see where your mechanical still stands because at the end of the day, you could be the smartest player in the game, but that's only
for
going
sure.
to get you so far.
And well, part of the reason I am really personally like motivated to do it is because every time I have filled in since the start, I'm normally super hard on myself because I'm not naive. I know I'm not like one of like the known
Yeah,
mechanical
you're not
players
going
in
to
this game.
replace Alberlele on that
Right.
roster and be able to put up the numbers he does. But
Absolutely.
to be certain and fair and blatant and honest, no one fucking will.
Yeah,
So
no,
don't worry
he's-
about it.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I
not.
never-
You're not. No one
Yeah.
is.
No,
So-
I never like that. Yeah, I at the beginning when Max joined and I would sub in for him, I'd always feel nervous because like there is no way I'm filling Max
Those
role
are
and what he
big
does.
Motherfucking shoes.
Massive.
Yeah.
He's one of like the top, in my opinion. He's like a top 5 player in the world, not just in NA.
Everyone will agree.
That dude is just on another level. Like there, like there are very few, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way. There are very few players in the scene that can like we all know what pros can do, but Max still continues to impress the shit out of me. Like
It's like Alb
and right.
and Lou are like the only two players from NA that
Yeah.
just do shit that like no other MNK player or controller player can do. And
Yeah.
the reason that Hal and like Sweet, like these super, super, super good, well-rounded, amazing IGL players don't get included in that is because there's a big difference between what you see in Alb and Lou that Hal and Sweet can't do. And what that is like their raw ability to like critically think wall fighting, okay? Like Sweet and Hal are both thinking like 10 steps ahead, like playing everything really smart. Where Mac or Lou will just do dumb shit sometimes, but they'll do it and they're the best players in the game and they'll like just casually 1v3 professional teams and just hit shots that Hal and Sweet could dream of hitting. Like those two players are in a different bracket of aiming on MNK.
I've noticed it because coaching Mac to the point where like I feel like both of them will make calls that most other players don't see or agree with because they can't do what those guys can do.
Can't get away
so they
with
don't
it.
so they don't understand why that call might be being made sometimes. Because like they are on that much of a higher level that they see the game differently than other pros in that regard, and it's
Is it hard coaching someone like that?
I thought it would be
easy.
I thought it would be, honestly, because a lot of coaching in general, and I think a lot of Apex pros would probably agree with this. Coaching in general, at least for how like young of an esport Apex is, you can't coach you can't be coached if you don't respect the coach that is coaching you, like in terms of their ability to play the game and their knowledge, right?
100%.
And with the old Liquid team with Nock, Casper, and Flanker, that wasn't a problem, right? I had already won their respect by helping them win a tournament. You know, I established credibility there.
The trust was there.
When Mac joined, I was very, very anxious about how he would perceive me, like in my input, and like how much he would allow me to dictate what like happens, or like, you know, how much he would respect my
how much control you have.
And to my surprise, I mean, he actually he probably talked to me more about the team than either of the other two. I mean, not to like take away from the other two. I mean, Flanker just shows up and he does what he needs to do. Me and Nocturnal talk about the game and all stuff all the time, but I was very surprised with how like open Mac was and how much he actually respected my input, which was really cool. It says a lot about him, I think, as
it's one of the
a
reasons
person.
He's as good as he is. You know, I think you'll agree with that. Is that he is that willing to be open and work with people like myself who are worse than him, or work with coaches who can only offer him so much, but he's consistently open-minded and literally willing to try everything. Like, I'm sure you threw many ideas in the mix that he knew were stupid or didn't work, or you threw many ideas in the mix that were too like so big brain that he didn't even think of, right? And I'm sure Mac, knowing Mac, was like open to majority of them, I'd imagine.
We fed off each other actually really well, because I've noticed anytime a new character comes out, I'd actually always watch Mac stream, because he likes him and I are very similar in the sense that like a new character comes out, we don't, no matter how bad they might be, we don't try to brush them off. We want to try them in every particular instance possible to see, you know, could this work?
Is there I remember a niche play style that could be the best play style if we master it type deal?
I remember when he was on TSM watching one of their arguments, like right towards the end, where they were talking about, like, I think Mac was pretty much fed up with playing the status quo. He wanted to try a new comp, and he was, I remember they were the whole team was in an argument about just trying new things, and Mac literally said, like, how do you know it's bad if you haven't even tried it? And like, that's something I like 100% agree with. And me and Mac, I think we think about the game with like characters and playstyle very similarly. So him and I, we'd have like a field day just like brainstorming ideas. A lot of the really weird comps that you've seen us play were me slightly memeing, but also kind of like being serious. And then he's like,
wait, something here.
And he was like, wait, I like that. Like the Watson comp. That was I remember that conversation. Like we did it like once or twice or 2 days in champ scrims, and they did really well. I'm not actually sure why they got off of it, because they didn't stream the scrims at the time, so I wasn't able to watch 100%. But like that conversation right there was literally, we were talking about how we didn't want to run Valk anymore because of how difficult it was to make the right call with her ult, as I'm sure you know. Like, you know, there's a lot of teams that griefed each other because they would land on them without even knowing. And I was just sitting there thinking, I was like, man, how nice would a Valk like Watson meta be, where you Valk ult in the air and you can see every team where they are and what's being taken? Because that's one thing I miss about Watson, is teams showing presence and being like, hey, this is our area, fuck off. So, you know, you can't come here. But if I was thinking, and I said to them, I was like, dude, Valk Watson meta would be sick, because then you can actually like use Valk's rotations and not like grief other teams, because you'll see where they are. And they're like, and Max like, I kind of like the idea of that. We were thinking in the sense of like, we post up and at least we don't get griefed by a Valk ult. And it kind of worked for a little bit, but like I said, I'm not sure why it took off.
I remember Mac talking about it. I actually talked to Mac about that unironically, like the whole Watson play style, why they were doing the whole 9 yards. I just think now I think you'll agree with me. It won't be interesting to talk about, but I think it's kind of a no-brainer that like the Watson comp is just the inferior Caustic version of it, because while the fences are flashy and no one's going to accidentally grief you, if someone walks and like lands on your doors and you've got Caustic traps on the doors, they have to double kick, then get through the barrel, then get into your building. You're never going to die and then end up getting griefed. And even if you don't have doors and you just got barrels on the inside of the room, a team comes barreling in, like flying into your room, like you're going to 3-0 them. And if you don't 3-0 them, you're still kind of unthirdable, man. It's just so hard to third Caustic, especially with the time that it takes and how many teams can move in. Start shooting in the back before you can get in. Like, it's, I don't know.
The Caustic's like literally Caustic's win condition in like any circle that's not the end zone is literally stall until another team helps out. That's what Caustic pretty much is. Like, you can't, it's even with like all the changes to the Caustic guys, like it's still like this slow, and the fact that he can literally get free vision on you through the smoke and like the visual clutter is enough to still, in my opinion, I still think the character is strong.
Yeah, it's the crowd
making this.
control. It's the crowd
Yeah.
control. It's never been the damage, but the damage was a bitch. It's always
dude.
been the crowd control.
It was so stupid. Let's be real.
The crowd control of Caustic is what's crazy because of movement in Apex. Movement is king in Apex. That's the difference between doing 200 with an R9 and doing 0 with an R9.
Yeah.
Both consistently do happen, unironically. So when your movement gets cocked like that, I mean, the fight's over. Like, you lose.
Yeah, if you
For you to win a
caught,
fight against a player with full movement and you have like 10% movement, you got to do something.
especially if they're on the roller.
Yeah, and they have to do something bad at the same time. So
Yeah, 100%. And I love the Caustic Jibby comp.
Valk.
Caustic Jibby Valk comp. We ran it. Unfortunately, it was the night. We tried to do it in the Pittsburgh Knights tournament because we ran it. Me, Nocturnal, and Flanker. For those that didn't watch like actively or don't watch or didn't watch our team at least actively, obviously champ scrims went pretty poorly for us. I think anybody would probably agree with that. And we one day Mac wasn't able to make it. I think it was his girlfriend's birthday or something. I don't remember. So I filled in, and Nock was like, "Dude, I kind of want to try Valk Caustic Jibby," and we did it, and we won, and it was probably one of the easiest scrim wins I've ever had, and like I, as a fill-in, I won our first scrim of all champs, and the qualifiers were in like 2 days. And it felt really good. It felt really easy. And we're like, oh, let's keep running it. This feels pretty good. Mac's like calling and Nox calling at the same time, though, when like Mac would actually play, kind of like clashed, and it didn't work terribly well when they did it. But we ran it again in the Pittsburgh Knights tournament day 2 when I filled in, and we had like a 55, 60 point day 2, which is like, I love that comp. I would love for like the meta to be just something where like I don't know.
PvP have talked about it. I think I don't think me and PvP agreed on it, but I think to this second that the Caustic Jibby Valk comp is the strongest comp in the game right now. I think it is. Yeah. I think if you see TSM or NRG or one of the stronger, more consistent teams pick up that playstyle and actually master it, I think you would see more dominant performances coming out of them than they currently are now. And I can promise you that TSM and NRG would disagree with me, but I don't know if they like see the vision in that play style and the amount of points that you can actually rack up and kill points you can get because of how much ground control you have with those characters.
I think it's a phenomenal. I think one of the biggest things that attracts me to that comp is it's also a very good comp. I think for the match point format. I don't think the current Octane Bloodhound Jibby, like that's obviously a good comp that can frag. You got a lot of good rotation potential out of that, but when it comes to match point format, I don't think that comp does much for you. It's tough.
Well, I do remember in ALGS when TSM, their first game on match point, they swapped to that comp and just scrapped it completely after that. So
it's so like it's kind of like Overwatch, where it's like, but like on steroids, in the sense that like it's so you could just not play the comp right, or some very minor thing can go wrong, but then someone will lose confidence in the comp and they'll be like, let's just swap back to what we know. But I do think like the future of Apex, I would not be surprised to see the future of Apex go to like teams that have a pre-match point format comp, and then once they get match point, they swap it up to something a little bit more consistent. I wouldn't. Agree. That's kind of like where I thought the game would always go. I'm
gonna grab a water. Don't mind me. Sorry.
Do I keep going?
Yeah, no, you're good. Well, I mean, do you think if they would have stuck with that comp, that maybe they would have picked up a match point win?
That's it's tough to say. I don't remember all like the zones and whatnot, but it at the end of the day, it comes down to how comfortable you are with the comp, and like that comp heavily resides on your IGL and their ability to call like super kind of like hair splitting rotations. Like the ones that we've done, like we did when we tried the comp. There were some where like Nock would make this one call to like move into a building just like on foot, and I'm like, I don't know about this, like something silly like that, and then it like, you know, excuse me, in my gut, I was like, I don't really want to do this, but I trusted him, and it panned out. And I think there was one game in particular where we won, and I was nervous about like 3 of his major calls, but you know, I trusted it and we won. That comp comes down heavily to your IGL. Obviously, Hal and all those like top end IGLs, obviously those guys are good enough, I think, to IGL a comp like that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of familiarity with it, like how long, like knowing what that, like limit testing that comp and understanding what it can do. Because if you haven't played with Valk at all, like I think she's an absurdly strong character still, but like if you don't play with her, it's so hard. Like she's not as easy as just throwing a bloodhound into the team, right? Bloodhound's so obviously just smack scan and you know what you're dealing with. Valk, you have to have practice with Valk or it's going to go poorly.
Of course.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask both of you this. I want you to answer first, Hodsick. So, in terms of your coaching ability and the impact you have on your team at a 100% ratio, going into tournament only, not scrims, not practice, how much of an impact do you feel like you have in tournaments percentage-wise?
That's a tough question because I feel like it's always. I'm the kind of person where like I don't know. It's hard for me to notice my own effort if that makes sense at all. Like I don't feel good about being like, yeah, I'm the reason we won that tournament. You know, like at the end of the day, it's never that. It's always going to be the players that push their buttons. If you ask my teammates, they would say that I would be a huge help. There's times I've called like comp changes on the fly and told them, like, hey, we got to mix things up. It is a little tough in these tournaments because I have to operate on a 5-minute delay. So by the time like say like they die or they win a game and we want to talk about the game, they've already talked it out amongst each other for like 5 minutes.
You're not allowed to be in the call.
I am
while they're playing.
I am, but I can only talk to them in between games, and for that I'm referencing like the stream. I want to because I want to hear everything. Like I could stay unmuted and just listen to them, but it's hard for me to like do that and also watch the stream from 5 minutes ago, and really pick up because comms are like analyzing comms is such a big part of Apex that people I think don't realize, and knowing like because it's all about every player has their own individual perspective of what they did and why they did it, but like my role as a coach is understanding the language and like the tonality that everyone's using and figuring out like what they thought and just putting that all together and then trying to figure out the weaknesses there, if that makes any sense.
Okay. What do you think, Zach? I want
Yeah.
to hear your thoughts on your coach. How much of impact do you think he has percentage-wise?
Well, my team's every team's going to be different. So the answer to this, you're never going to get similar answers. And the reason why is because different teams have different skill sets, right? So if you go to like, who would be a good example? You go to like G2, right? Or my team and G2 definitely lack the ability to IGL consistently. Those are what our teams lack. But we make up for it in a ridiculous amount of mechanical skill. That's just fact. That's just the way it is for our team. So a coach / analyst for our team is going to have a lot of value. Way more than, let's say, a coach on TL. Because Nocturnal likes to think things through. I don't think Nocturnal is the most dumb IGL in the game. And Al thinks things through. Sometimes maybe too much, in my opinion. But they both think things through. They're both not dog shit IGLs. So, like, Hodsic can offer a lot and work with them a lot, right? But there's only so much direction. Like he said, he mentioned it earlier, there's a lot more, like, working together than, like, controlling and directing. Whereas, like, on my team, I don't want to leak it because I don't know what map we're playing in the future, but dude, the amount of analytical work and all of our rotations, literally everything, I am not exaggerating, is done on maps that I'll pull up on my second monitor during tournament. They're all done by PvPX. They're all done to like help me like step by step.
He's got a massive impact mid tournament. Like while you're playing.
Me, Noct, and Naughty Wall agree that we would not have placed anywhere near as well as we did without PvP. I think I'd probably say like 50% of that placement was PvPX because I could easily see us getting like 7th, 8th, 9th with the way we were performing in champ scrims without the structure that he offered our team. So that's crazy. I'll go back to the primary point, but there's a coach is gonna like offer a very different percentage with every team because as I just said, like PvP does like so much for our team. Where like Hodsic works with his team and together with them to come up with what they think is the best idea. So I don't know, it's just different environments.
Yeah, of course. At the start for me, it was very much like I signed on board and I never wanted to like change the way they played. I just wanted to amplify what they did to make it better, like do a lot of little min-maxing, like what guns they should be picking up, rotation timings, like the type of loot they should be carrying, like small stuff like that. But at the beginning, at the beginning, like the one big difference I made instantly was that in my opinion not only helped them do much better in scrims, but also helped them win. was they won online tournament 3, and at that time, if you remember back, there were still normal armor spawns, and there were Evo spawns you had to pick up and level up. So one thing, and I actually, admittedly, I nabbed this from watching a lot of EU and Alliance, because I really like the way Alliance plays. I think they're one of the most innovative teams in the game. 100%. I don't think anybody would probably debate that. Like, they are always on like a new wave of meta, and I always love watching them. And one thing they were doing, which a lot of teams weren't doing back then, where they're playing position. I think it might have been with Caustic at the time, but they were playing position. And they were grabbing all the Evos in the surrounding area if they found a bunch, or they were just grabbing Evos in general, and they'd grab snipers, charge rifles, all that stuff. This was still at a time where people didn't really do that, and they would just level up armors and from their position and then just like roll fights.
Yeah,
and,
just juggernaut.
And we played very similarly. I mean, we played a very positional based team. We played very fast rotates. So I started telling them pick up snipers, because they didn't used to do that. My team did not used to pick up snipers. I said pick up snipers. Pick up Evo shields, because this was still Wraith Path Watson meta for the most part. And that instant, like night and day, that transformation was obvious and apparent, because every scrim, even if they didn't win, they were on red armor, which before they were on like blues, maybe like one purple. They just went out the loot that they found on the ground. So early on, I definitely did a lot more in like helping them with like rotates and all that stuff. But now that like they kind of like know that, I guess like they've learned, they know how to do like the whole macro play. In fact, I think Nox macro play is insanely underrated. Now I'm at the point, because they know how to do all of that pretty well, now I'm at the point where I help those small little micro things, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like we taught them, we worked together to figure out like the big sense of the game. Now I help them figure out the small sense and the small little errors.
Nice. All right, well, I think we're good on the whole coaching thing, unless you guys want to go a little bit more into it. But there's some pretty juicy drama going around. I know you guys wanted to talk about this one. Yeah. iLootGames getting exposed for being in hacking and cheating discords alongside people who just literally cheat. I don't know if there was developers in there, but just filled with a bunch of cheaters, and he was encouraging them and stuff. What's your guys' thoughts on this?
I'll go first, because I know Hodzic's very passionate about this one, and I'll let him wrap it up. And then we'll move on after that. So I'll go first on this one. Personally, I don't really know iLootGames at all. Everyone in the scene that knows me, Hodsic, will be able to like agree with this, but I kind of like keep my head down in its own rabbit hole of like my friend group of like 9, and I really like don't know anything going on outside of it. I just kind of like do my own thing. So I didn't know that he was like a scumbag the way he was until very recent, when all the drama and all that shit got exposed, and then I started hearing the stories of like the other shit they don't like about him, yada yada yada. But just to focus on the primary focus of the whole exposing, which was like the cheater Discord and all that, I'm pretty sure that whether it's true or not, I don't think it fucking matters personally, but the idea was that he was playing a role so that he could infiltrate the cheater Discord. And honestly, I just think he's fucking stupid, because the things he was saying and the way it looked like, and just the whole 9 yards of it is just the only word to describe it, to be honest, is like disgusting. It's like dishonorable. It's like really gross, pathetic.
Well, the worst part to me was like he can say he went in there undercover and he's just trying to get the juice and expose them, but he was quite literally like laughing and enjoying his time in there. Very clearly, you can see it through the messages.
I'll let you finish after I say this last thing, because I know you're passionate about this one, motherfucker. You go ham in a second, but there was a lot of people. I don't even know if it was in the screenshots, but there was a lot of people defending that he was actually unironically protecting the cheaters from EA. He knew things about them that EA didn't, and had additional information that he could have offered, but he was literally protecting them. Which is that when I heard that was like my final straw. Like, huh? What? Mm-hmm. I'll let you go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I just like I didn't know him before Apex. I don't even know what he did before Apex. The very first like run-in I had, like anyone that's like a content creator watching this, or in any scene, or even like obviously like the pros that might be watching this, anyone knows like it's always a little shady like when you hear things about people and it's almost never anything good, because like most people in the scene, like you don't have too many bad things to say about them, and they're probably decent people. But when you like hear any like kind of shady stuff from like one person like here and there, like it's like constantly it's all you hear about, it's just like it lets
Some
you
red flags.
it makes you raise a brow or two. But my first run-in with him initially was just like the first time I ever like really saw like anything like I saw him do something that like really painted a picture of who he was. Like it just instantly I was like, this guy's weird. And it was if anyone remembers, I think it was season 3. There was a like semi-viral clip that was shown around like the Apex Pro community of a scrim where Mopork, if you remember Mopork, Mopork 6, and I forget who their third was, they were trying a crypto jibby comp where they basically, you were able to throw the dome shield on the crypto drone and you could literally like go up zip lines, right? So if you remember like season 3 World's Edge, where that like the pussy post that we like to call, right south of Capital. Yeah, so there was a team, the video clip was a team holding that. And so the execute that they actually did was they got the dome on the crypto, or they got on the crypto drone, and they drove it up the zip line while the Jibby, and I think it was Wraith, while the Jibby and the Wraith took the zip line. Like so it was like the team was up here, right? The Wraith and Jibby were back here, and then the dome drone was in the middle, and it was basically protecting them as they were going up the zip line. At the same time, it also EMP'd the team up top. And then they basically got a free zip line in with an EMP, and they just destroyed this team, right? It was a clip of this, and it went like pretty pseudo viral, like at least among the pro players, and it was crazy. And iLootGames downloaded the video, cropped out the names of the people in the video, the players. There was no indication of who the people were that made the video, and uploaded it with no credit to anybody else, purely like playing it off as it was his own video. And that right there was like, I'm a little biased because Mopork's my friend, but that right there, like that just says a lot about a content creator that's willing to do that right there. To completely crop out any credit given, it's just slime me. And on more to the note of,
do you remember what the title of that video was? Like, was he maliciously trying to make people think it was him for sure?
So I think if I remember, he just described it, because yeah, that would be my second thought, is like, oh, well, is it in the title? Like, oh, these pro players did this. No, there was none. I don't remember the title exactly, but I remember specifically looking, was there like any hint that it wasn't his? And there was not at all. And I was just like, dude, this is fucking weird. But anyways, more so to like the cheater thing, I don't have the video. I don't know if you know about this video, Zach, but there was like a 15-minute video that somebody posted on the Comp Apex subreddit of somebody who did like crazy research on all of this, and I think that's where those screenshots surfaced from. The video didn't get a lot of traction, and I'm sorry, I don't have like the link on hand. I think I sent it to PvP once, I think, but it's basically this guy who went much more in depth about all of the iLootGames stuff, and to the point where like there were like he showed screenshots of iLootGames like literally telling the cheaters how to crash the servers, for example. He was helping them in any way possible. Like there's that whole he was playing a role is bullshit. He basically read the screenshots that Rogue linked and was like, how can I manipulate this to make it look like it's not that bad? It's complete bullshit. I'll have to try to find like the video for you guys.
There's a lot more to it.
And
such
it's just shame, like, man. I blocked him originally when he did the Mopork thing, because like I said, that's just it says a lot about a content creator that's willing to do something like that. So I like blocked him, and then he once like came to my chat and basically asked to be unblocked. So I was like, fuck it, I'll give him a chance. We'll see what happens. And I'm just not like when I read all of this, it just didn't really even surprise me. It was I don't know. It's just weird, man. I have not liked that guy since my very first interaction with him, and there aren't very many people I could say that about, at least in content creation. Like there really aren't. I try to give most people the benefit of the doubt, but that dude is just on something.
Now, do you guys think he can bounce back from this? You think the community's going to let him?
No, he has to go to a different game. He has to go to a different game.
No, I don't think so. I mean, at the end of the day, anytime there's like a drama centered around people like that, there's going to be a lot of people who like don't. I'm sure he has a lot of fans that don't pay attention to Twitter or don't even have a Twitter account, don't even know what's going on, that are probably just going to watch. I don't even know. Does he just upload videos mainly, or does he stream?
Mostly videos.
Fucking knows.
I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people that are still gonna watch his videos without even knowing any of the stuff, without knowing any of the background. You know, that's how it is a lot of the times. You know, you can have a big following, but that doesn't mean everyone's gonna know everything about you every time.
Welcome to the internet.
Yeah, there's some people who they like the videos, they're gonna watch them. I'm sure in the long run he'll be fine, but you know, the history will be there for anyone that wants to dig it up.
All right. Well, I think that's a good point to wrap this one up. Let's talk a little bit more about, I guess you could say, some more drama, a little bit of controversy. This one has to do a little bit with Zach and the pro comp Reddit. I know earlier he said he had a lot to say. There was a clip floating around of Mac talking about what he thinks of G2. And I guess to sum it up, he kind of said that they are dumb because of their play style. Is that fair to say, Zach?
I mean, just to be a little bit more honest and less clickbaity, he said they're insanely mechanically talented, but very fucking stupid. And I'll keep it a buck with you. I don't think you're gonna find many pro players in the scene that like disagree with that. I don't really think that's too controversial. I guess we could talk about it more if you want, but
I mean,
I think
some of their players might even agree with it, right?
It's kind of hard to admit that you're dumb as fuck. It takes a lot of pride swallowing to be like, yeah, I'm fucking insane at the game, but I'm fucking stupid, but I'm still better than whoever the fuck you are.
Obviously not to that degree,
like, swallow that,
but to know they rely on their mechanics for sure, right? Like, they know that.
I don't think Design, Risotto, or Gent would have a problem being like, yeah, we are definitely way better shooters than we are at IGL. I don't think they would have a problem saying that part of it.
Yeah. I think
Mac went far by saying, like, they're fucking stupid with their plays, but I think a lot of that is like it's like predetermined hate from them running into Liquid all the time on them just being like fucking idiots in no man's land. And no offense to Liquid and no offense to G2 as well, because it goes both ways. But like, it's from the outside looking in on paper, it seems very rare that G2 is going to lose a fight against Liquid from the outside looking in. And then on top of that, majority of the time, Liquid is just probably just trying to rotate, and G2 is just probably blindsiding them. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I definitely imagine that G2 is winning a lot more than Liquid for many reasons. But who knows?
It was. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I know Mac does not. I know his distaste for G2, not like as players. Anyone obviously watching, like, you got to keep in mind. I don't
business friends.
It's all like when he says like they're fucking stupid, we're talking about like the business side of it. Like, we're talking about the way they play the game, not necessarily like, oh, he hates them as players. Like, people a lot of fans often tie too much of that together. Most of the scene like are still like cool and pretty cordial with each other outside of the game. Not, I'm not like, we're not all like friends, happy go lucky, but we're all pretty much like we get it. Like, we know what happens in the game for the most part stays in the game. Not always, but sometimes. But anyways, yeah, I mean, you are 100% right. Most of the time we did lose. We got blindsided by them because we were, for reference, we drop trials. We do trials most of the time, not always, but we do trials. We're typically like the last, if it's like a south zone or a southwest zone, we're typically the last team to make it to the zone. Just because, not only because of our drop swap, but because we always do trials and we still lose some of Skyhook as well if we need extra. Sometimes we do crafting. Like, we are almost always the last team in zone. And Mac used to get very heated because we would be rotating through like staging, coming out to like the east of staging, what most players call Crack House, which is the little compound north of the thermal choke hill. And so many times, like 5 minutes into the game, it's still a south zone. We'd run into G2 just like somewhere there, still in thermal looting. And I know why. Like, they've explained it to us a lot. They do crafting. Thermal is a very slow place to loot everything. Everything is so spread out,
and they're on controller.
Yeah. So looting it won't be naturally as fast. So a lot of the times we did lose 3v3s, it was because they shared a blindsided us. I would say, like, when it was a hard 3v3, you would think, I think you would think that G2 came out a lot more ahead, but I'd say they probably like got more 3v3 wins in the long run, but it tended to be pretty even. I know there was a time where Gent would message me like begging us to stop running into each other because we were, it goes both ways. Sometimes they just completely run us over every time. Sometimes we ran them over every time. But
I remember
Mac
third-partying it a couple times. It's
but
stupid down there.
Mac's frustration is that, like, anytime it's a south zone, most teams, the way you play competitively, and I want to explain this because I think a lot of like viewers don't necessarily understand competitive patterns and stuff like that. If you have a zone that is favorable to you, like very close, you actually go early. Like, a lot of people think, oh, you slow, you loot, it's right there, you loot, you take your time. No, you try to go as fast as possible because you want to get the game winning spots you want to hold the really strong spots in the zone before anybody else does. So that's not necessarily the case with G2. They obviously they play a more kill heavy strategy anyways. Even when they have like zone and thermal, they don't usually play the game winning place. They play a spot where they can get a lot of kills. So it's just Mac would get very frustrated because, you know, we'd be rotating like 5 minutes until we're finally getting it towards like the first zone, and they're like right next to it. It would be like a tree zone or a sorting zone, and they're like right there, and they're still just leaving thermal. So Mac, that's just like kind of like the story of why Mac gets frustrated, because it's just a very different playstyle than almost any other team. I would say I want to give them props. They've gotten so much smarter than when they first joined the scene. When they first joined the scene, I think almost everybody hated them because
they were that fucking stupid, and they
made
just
some
abusing
really
the havoc,
bad,
and design was so good with it. It was fucking stupid.
Yeah, they made some really dumb plays constantly. But I'll be honest, like I will give them credit. They have come a long way in terms of like pushing certain fights, and like they have gotten a lot.
They're ridiculously smarter than they used to be, but they're still like design as an IGL. That team is far from sweet or happy. And that's a very comfortable statement to make.
I would agree with that. But yeah, that's just kind of like why Mac gets frustrated. Again, I do want to reiterate, like anytime you hear that stuff, it's typically what happens. Yeah, what happens in the game stays in the game. You know, viewers like to confuse that a lot.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Design and Alb are like actually good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure I'm actually I know of it. They fuck with each other. They're cool.
And they've gone at each other in like Zach, I'm sure you've seen it like the pro chat, dude.
Dude, I can't tell you how many times I scream at Hal in the pro chat. I've said the most foul things about Hal in the group chat, and we're still best friends to this day. So it's like there's a whole different aspect of like the business side to the personal side to your friends, like who these people are as a person versus like what they're doing in game. These are all things you have to separate when you get to high level sports or work or anything important.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
Sounds good. I guess to keep the drama rolling, moving on. This one's kind of sad and unfortunate. Or did you want to talk more about it? You can.
Yeah, I was fucking excited.
Oh yeah, go ahead, man. Take it over. What do you think about the subreddit?
I gotta bring up the post because I remember you said something. I haven't even fucking seen that.
Is this like
don't hold back, Zach. Don't hold back at all.
Oh yeah, it's a new one. It is like within a day. It says Zach and Alb saw on the subreddit, and every comment is like whatever. They definitely had their fair share with it. Some of them are actually like not being dickheads on this one. This one is a pretty impressive post compared to the rest. I can link it to you if you care.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard about this, so I'm curious to see as well.
Yeah. I'll send it on Discord.
I usually hate going here, but I try. I want to engage with the comp community of Apex, but sometimes it's so tough.
Oh god, bro. So there's some pretty like smart outlooks on it. There's one guy that was like, that's just the reality of being a public figure, and he's completely right. Like just the humble and real answers. He's completely right. Like as a public figure of even my size, which is in the grand scheme of things extremely small. Mac being much bigger. It doesn't matter. Even at the point I'm at, like the reality of it is that you really just have to look past all of it. Now, it's not realistic, but that is the reality. Like that's the goal, right? That person's right, but there's a lot of people saying that like the subreddit isn't hateful or it's not that toxic or outside of drama situations, but it's like what the fuck productive happens on that subreddit that isn't fucking drama. Like the only good things I see on that subreddit outside of drama are like people getting signed, and those gifts do really good numbers and get really awesome comments on them. So shout out them for doing good on that. But I saw a lot of people not liking the idea. I brought up that like I think the subreddit is a very fucking stupid place because they don't like that pros don't interact with them, but then when pros do interact with them, there's a lot of disagreeing and stubbornness and close-minded people. Now, that's just the nature of the internet. I also do understand that. Let's get that straight. However, I made an analogy like, bro, I'm not going to go argue with Obama over politics. I'm not referring to Obama being the best politician in the world. I'm just saying at one point, he was a high-level politician, right? And I haven't been a high-level politician. So with that being said, why would I argue with him? So that doesn't mean I'm incapable of being right. that just means he has a higher chance to be right, and I should probably just take his advice and listen to him. I made an analogy like that referring to the comp Reddit, like, listen, if a pro goes out of their way to comment on something that they think is just wrong or stupid or think you're in the wrong or just make it a general comment, like, be very subtle and careful with what you respond to it because one, you don't want to leave a bad taste in their mouth because then they'll never interact with you again. And two, it's like if you do take the time to come up with a good educational like response, like they're gonna respond and you're gonna learn and everyone's gonna learn and it's a very productive and awesome environment. But it's just very uncommon there. It's a lot more closed-mindedness of like you're right, I'm wrong type deal. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's just fucking stupid. Like,
It,
I mean, how can you argue with someone with like 7K hours on the game? They have tens and tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars of earnings on the game. They stream to thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of viewers. And these people that literally play the game like 3 hours a day are like fucking arguing. It's
yeah.
like,
No, I got strong feelings about the subreddit as well. Like at the same time, there are like obviously there's some good people. Like there are a lot of good
yeah,
interactions you can have.
I'm
on
not
it for
expecting
sure.
them to bend their knee either. I don't want
Right.
to say that either, but like,
A
make a
healthy amount of
decent effort.
skepticism is good, but there's
Yeah.
no, because I'll sometimes comment on there, and there will be people who just straight up are like no, and I'm just like, like
Huh?
I'll give like my input or like I'll tell you how it is like competitively, and they'll just be like, no, I don't think so. And it's always funny because then people afterwards will be like, imagine telling Hodzick like how to play or something. It's just like
There,
I'm
there
not the best
are.
player in the world, but like you said, like and this is in my opinion, like this is how like this is the mentality I embody so much in life. Like same thing as like your Obama analogy. If there's somebody that I know is way better than me, I am typically gonna just sit there and listen to them. I'll take into account what they say. I'm not saying like bend the knee, take their word as gospel, but you should probably at least listen to like what they're saying a little bit and like try to like compute it and see if it really makes sense with you more so than just straight up being like no. Like I talk about this a lot on my stream because people usually ask me all these types of questions. I've been like following esports ever since like StarCraft 2 and like Halo days, right? Like I've been like heavily like I've never been like big involved in like communities like in like forums and Reddits and whatnot, but I watch and like I read everything. I'm a big lurker, and I used to follow so many different comp scenes, and I feel like now being in one, I feel like Apex is, and this actually piggybacks off a clip that somebody clipped of Ace, and one reason he like just dislikes the Apex community. Apex like a community with the competitive community, or no, actually just the casual community rather. Sorry, the Apex casual community dislikes pros more than any other game I've ever played. I don't understand it at all. In any other game like League, Dota, CS, Valorant, like the pros
They're
are
much more
so
like idolized.
yeah, they're so heavily revered, and you almost get like most casuals are more likely to like push like shit on you if you're a pro. Like when they released the cosmetics where you can pay and help increase the prize pool, and they announced that on like Twitter and socials. There's so I mean, you just go down that post. There's so many people are like, why would I want
It's
to
like
help the
10
pros?
negatives for every
Yeah,
one positive. It was
fuck those
stupid.
pros, like all this shit, like and I don't get it. Like yes, there are some like they always say like the pro scene is so toxic, and I feel like they're only referring to like a couple people, but they're blanketing the entire pro scene off just like a couple like maybe big streamers, like maybe
The
they see
pro
Hal
scene
yelling
isn't
at his
even.
teams or something. Like I
Yeah,
don't
but the
know.
pro scene isn't even toxic, and that's where they're
It's really
wrong. Is
not.
like
Yeah,
Apex is one of the most docile pro scenes. If you take that
yeah,
deep step back and you actually look down like bird's eye view on it, Apex is one of the most close and friendly communities of any esport by far. I
yeah,
mean, the actual beef, the actual dislike in the community is like slim to none. Like it's extremely rare in the Apex or the NA side at least to like have one pro and another pro genuinely dislike each other.
yeah,
Extremely rare. Um,
yeah.
and you look at the other games like COD, League, these what's the word? What's the word?
Established.
No, I'm like their their rivalries are much more deep. And that causes a lot more like I actually don't like that guy because I want to beat him so bad and he does this and I don't like him now.
Yeah,
So it's interesting to me that like people think the Apex community is so toxic. And then just to piggyback on like a different note that I want to talk about is it's interesting to me that the Apex pros aren't. I'm not saying we deserve to be a fucking statue in your room, dude.
Same.
I'm
I
just
want to make
saying.
that clear. Same.
I'm just saying that like you look at like League of Legends pros, you look at like all these other games where pros are like idolized very high, and then you look at Apex and it's just simply not the case if you're not Hal in specific, literally. Um, it's strange because Apex has such a high skill gap. Of every game in the world right now that is a esport, like Apex is like probably like top 3. You could easily argue with like actual skill gap determining the pros from like any of the casual community. Now I understand the rank system is very broken, but like pros can go play ranked and it is just the most like I mean absolute easygoing scenario, and those are supposed to be the top casual players. And I'm not lying when I say those are the top casual players that are commenting and saying like this, and that about the pros that like can play with like half their monitor on and fucking decimate. So it's like, oh man, bro, it does. I'd be lying if I say it doesn't bother me a little bit. It feels a lot more like entitlement than actually like feeling like you have a good counterpoint and you might know something that they don't. There's like a big difference, and it doesn't feel like that very often.
Yeah, it's so many times when anything arises in the game, it feels like it's the pros versus the casuals instead of like a lot of the casuals think that we want to balance the game like purely around like competitive play. Like I remember Monsoon got so much hate for a tweet that said take the Kraber out of comp. That was the tweet. Like he very specifically said out of comp, and so many casuals. I think there was even like a Dexerto article about it. Like just jumped on a hate train and be like, all you pros just want to change the game for the worse. When he literally said in comp. Just competitive. I don't like I could give a rat's ass about the Kraber in pubs and ranked. I think most pros probably feel the same way. Like do whatever you want with the Kraber there.
About it, bro.
It's when you spend months and months of working and practicing and then all of a sudden your tournament can be easily be thrown by just getting fucking Krabered across the map.
I mean, I lost like $20,000 to one Kraber shot. That one Twitch rival. It's like what?
People don't realize how like I think the tech actually made a banger tweet one day where it was like, you know, imagine you're practicing for months and like you have a really big game that you need to have a really big game and you have the opportunity to have one, but all of a sudden you get Krabered and then all of that practice is just for nothing and you just wasted so much time. Like,
and it's all an RNG factor if they got a care package too.
Yeah, like,
there's an easy answer. Don't get Krabered.
Yeah, forehead.
There's a lot of similarities with the stuff you guys are saying with the Fortnite community as well. Like when a pro says this shouldn't be in pro play, right? And then the casuals come in and they fight like, yo, what do you know? Whatever. This is our game. There's more of us. Why do you think you're so entitled? Right?
I just feel like it's a
so
BR
I get that
thing,
energy.
Man.
Yeah, it might be a BR thing.
Because BRs are such like a concentration of like trying. It's one of the only like quote unquote competitive games that probably tries to cater to its casuals more than comp, which is like that's fair. Like that's okay to have that standpoint. It makes sense. Casuals make up 99% of the fucking game, and they literally keep the doors and servers running, right? More than the pros do. But
yeah,
at the same time, I just don't know why like people I think are more likely to just jump on a hate train with pros rather than understand where they're coming from. It's just like
it also takes time though. Like in a few years from now, if Apex and EA invest a lot into esports and you know it grows to something similar to like a league type thing, then there will be a lot more respect.
I agree with that. I think it does have a lot to do with it being online too. I think the idea of like, being personable with the pros creates that idolization, if that's even a fucking word. I'm so tired. Sorry.
It's because they see you guys a lot in your like, environment. When they see you in a professional environment, that connection gets developed way more, right?
Yeah, I think we'd be looked up to definitely a lot more if there were way more Poland environments they were promised outside of COVID. COVID fucked everything.
Oh,
I think that has a really, really, really big deal to do with it, and why you can look at other games like League and shit, and it's not the same case. It's because they have all that already there from the past. COVID didn't really fucking ruin it. So
yeah, 100%.
I think that does have a big deal to do with it because once these fucking internet dwelling morons see that like a lot of us aren't just 21-year-old dickbags that just fucking talk shit on the internet all day. We're actually like much more mature and professional than you actually realize, strictly because we've gotten this far in video games or maybe life. You don't know, so don't judge, right?
Yeah,
I
and
think
I
it's
think
much
because
easier
of
to
COVID
create that
too, there's a
relationship.
lack of content from organizations too to also show that side of their players, right?
Oh yeah, and
So
the
it's a
funding too. A lot
COVID
of
really
orgs
is
making
had
budget
a big
cuts and
impact
shit.
on it.
Yeah. Like when you like just for I guess for people like watching like to understand really like the point, like think about if you're watching like you tune into what your favorite pro or just favorite streamer, they get knocked by a Kraber in a comp match and they start like they start, you know, flipping shit at Wise Kraber and competitive, et cetera, et cetera. Even though you only saw that one death and you're like, why is he complaining so much? Blah blah blah. Think of like you only saw that one death. You haven't seen the hundreds before that that came up to like that almost like put most pros over like that tipping point of just getting so annoyed that weapon is still in comp. That weapon's been terrorizing the game since before most people have even been playing it at this point. Poland, uh, for those that don't know, was obviously one of the best tournaments competitively because it was a LAN, but also there was no Kraber because at the time of Poland, care packages were they were just no, they were bugged actually. They weren't disabled, they were straight up bugged. And they just
Fuck it. That was a great bug.
yeah, and
Never
they
said
weren't
that before.
yeah, and they weren't in Poland tournament at all. The only Kraber in the entirety of the Poland tournament was in Sweet's hands, ironically, because he got it from one of the fucking flyers. Because they can sometimes drop care package weapons in Kings Canyon. He got it from a flyer, and that was the only Kraber in Poland. And that tournament, I think, was a very like just good competitive showing because there were no care packages at all, and it was phenomenal. I think every pro liked it a lot. Like it was a bug.
Unfortunately.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on now. I think this will probably be our final topic. And I did want to touch on this, the drama with Daltoosh. I'm sure you guys have seen what he said, but for those of you who may have not seen it, he said some pretty insensitive things on his stream, which kind of started to go viral on Twitter and on Reddit. And because of that, people started digging, and then more clips came out of just some unfortunate things that he definitely shouldn't have said. Now, I want to get your guys' thoughts on it and see where you guys stand because, you know, Zach, you're a streamer, right? So what do you think?
I mean, Hodsic is too. But let's take a step back. A lot of people on Twitter have been vocalizing that they do not like it being referred to as drama because
I wouldn't
drama,
say that
it's
too.
racism. So we will start with rewording that one.
Good point.
We'll start with rewording that one. And then secondly, I've talked about it on my stream many times. I've actually been getting, not to make it about me or anything, but I've gotten like a ridiculous, an ignorant amount of hate in the past 48 hours about me not making a tweet. But I've talked about it.
I've seen some too as well.
More than enough times on my stream, and I just think it was just stupid. To be frank, I mean, I don't understand how it's so controversial and how it's like such like a talkable about point. Like it was just racist. Like there isn't much more to it. It was foul. It was wrong. And some of the other things that he said in the past that got brought up were even worse. All right, it was very, 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 very wrong. I don't get all of the debating on Twitter. I think
Well, I think it's mainly
his response was very good. I hope he does get better. The most important thing I want to focus on this is nothing's more important than educating, right? Nothing's more important than educating because everything from fucking dude, you could go from pedophiles to racist people to sexist people, just the most foul of the foul to like the not that bad, but it's foul, whatever it may be, right? I don't know what I would throw there, but whatever it may be, right? Nothing's more important than teaching, being educational, because we could throw all these people in a prison, or we could throw all these people to the side and shun them and make them feel horrible, and the whole community knows these are disgusting people, but they never change. They just get pissed off and angry, right? So nothing's more important than educating so that these people that are doing these foul things or people that were developing into those bad habits can avoid them or grow through them and turn into better people. And I think that's something I don't want to be like too positive on such a topic that was very bad, but I think it would be very inspirational and something that society needs more than ever, and more than anything is seeing these people that are foul growing and removing these bad habits, whatever it may be, and turning into better people. I think society needs to see that so people can be more comfortable with people changing instead of developing into this cancel culture. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Well, I actually like this is probably the first time I'm like publicly talking about it, and I'm kind of like right there with you too, Zach. I've also seen some people being like, because obviously like somebody who's been like kind of like spearheading a lot of the frustrations from POCs is Crusader, my manager. I admit, like, so at the time we're recording this, the 3rd, Saturday, July 3rd. Me and my team, like, I know there was one post that actually like kind of like that ratioed one of Crusader's posts. Of some guys
I know
like
what you're talking about,
saying that like we haven't even like, how can he call out Sweet when we haven't even said anything ourselves? But like, it's tough. Like the whole thing is. I'll get my point out and like where I stand real quick so people know before they reach too deep. Obviously what Toush says was bad. I think Tush's statement, I think the second statement he released was far better than his first one. It seems like it felt a lot more heartfelt and like he actually realized what those words meant. Most of the trouble, obviously, I don't even think most of the trouble was with what Toush said. Obviously, it's bad. I don't think anyone will, or I can't say that actually, but most people realize like it was bad. He at least apologized for it. Obviously, it's not our place to take the apology and accept it. What the worst part about it was Tush's community going after people, not after people, but saying like, get
yeah, I
over
was going
it.
to talk
It's
about
not
that
that
too.
bad.
I was going to talk about that too.
That's obviously the worst thing. And to that, I want to say like, if you are white, just like you have to do things have to change with the way a lot of white people see things happen to any kind of minority, not just people of color, but definitely people of color, because it happens to them probably more disproportionately more. But if you are white, like just rather than going like lol, get over it, lol, like snowflake, like try to take a second and put yourself in their shoes and realize that one joke here and there is not all that they hear. They hear this shit on the regular. Like people of color are constantly hearing the shit, and that's the there's a lot of like complaints that like, oh, anytime they address it, they seem angry. It's because they get over their tipping point. They probably like
addressing it 3 times a day. That's their breakfast, lunch, and dinner when they open.
They're probably swallowing it left and right, just trying to get about their day. But they're getting they're getting shit thrown at them constantly, and the only time we really hear about it is when they're over their tipping point. So rather than going like, hey, lol snowflake, like try to understand where people are coming from. It's not like a small little joke that they're getting upset about. They're getting upset about being demeaned and being reduced to something less than that of other races when everybody should be the same. That's all they want. They don't want to be better than people. They want to be the same and looked at the same as everybody else. And that's I don't know why that has to be. I don't know why that's
such a crazy topic. Like, why is that so far-fetched?
Imagine being a fan of Daltoosh and being a person of color, right? And hearing that, right? It's heartbreaking for them. So you have to understand that they're going to be upset. 100%.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Hodzick said, is there's definitely outliers going to be in everything, whether it's just the worst of the worst or the best of the best. There's going to be outliers, man, and it sucks. It sucks so bad. And Tush's community, look, I love Daltush. Anyone watching this that knows me knows that me and Dalton are fucking. I mean, me and him have done IRL content together. Like, dude, he lives like 15 minutes away from me. Like, that's my fucking dog. That's just the truth. I'm not gonna say I'm lie. But like his community could not have possibly done worse. Like they could not have made it worse. And that's just the truth. I think it was very embarrassing. I won't speak for Dalton because I haven't talked to him unironically in a while. I'd imagine if I was in his shoes, I'd be quite embarrassed on behalf of my community because a lot of those people were like apologizing, like a lot of white dudes were apologizing on behalf of black people, and a lot of white dudes were going to people of color's posts and fucking saying fucked up shit like get over it, stop being a snowflake, it isn't that big of a deal, like shit like this. Is shut the fuck up. It's just so stupid, stupid, and it doesn't go both ways. It really doesn't go both ways. The outliers on the other side are the fucking morons that are like adding Hodsic, or the fucking morons that are adding me or Sweet, or we're going, why didn't you make a Twitter post? It's like, man, I don't think people of color will disagree on me when I say that, like, dude, there are so many ways of being an ally. And I hate to break it to you, you fucking idiots, but tweeting isn't going to just stop racism. If I choose not to tweet, or a person of color chooses not to tweet, that doesn't mean they're racist.
Right.
That's just not how it works. There's so many different things you can do. You can donate. There's like George Floyd funds. There's so many different platforms that all these content creators have that they can choose to use all of them, or only one of them, or none of them. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't make them racist. And then I just wish the conversation was the reason I bring up that other side isn't really to like play devil's advocate and make myself seem like an asshole, but it's just I just really wish for things like this, like something like non-controversial, like that was just racist, like it's really
Yeah.
just that straightforward. I really wish there weren't these outliers of like the douchebag community being dickheads of like get over it,
Yeah.
snowflake, it isn't that big of a deal, and the fucking morons that are being like, oh, you didn't make a tweet, you're racist. Like, I mean, dude, at the end
Yeah.
of the day,
That's
man,
like I get.
you're out of your mind if you think the world should and will continue like this. Like, change needs to happen.
Yeah.
End of story.
That's one part I actually really like definitely want to talk about, and because like I haven't said anything, and it's not because I stay silent and all this stuff, because like I hate when people say that, like someone didn't tweet, oh they're staying silent. Like I don't like that mentality at all. Let me tell, because again, there was a post that Crusader
It's
made
just stupid.
once he called out Sweet. There was somebody that
a stupid
responded.
post, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's somebody that responded and said, how can you say anything to Sweet when none of your team that you manage have said anything? Well, let me tell you why. Because the past week we've all flew across the country. Knox also moving. He flew to Texas and then he flew to California, where we were filming a commercial. I spent very limited time on social media. I uploaded one picture of us because that's kind of like Twitter is our job. We do have to like create hype about things. Sponsors want to see that as well. I uploaded a picture of us, and then I responded to a couple comments for engagement, because that's just what we have to do. I mean, no one's holding a gun in my head to post, but it's just one of those things where you should do it if you have sponsors. It makes them happy. But yeah, we flew across the country, and we were filming a commercial that's for one of our sponsors, and like we didn't choose to stay silent. Like that pisses me off so much. We just weren't online, dude. Like I came back to most of this, and I'm honestly just catching up on it today. Like after
Yeah.
Tush has already made his second.
It's a lot to catch up on, right? You don't want to say something
there's so much.
when you're not fully
Also-
educated on what happened.
Also, for me personally, like when it comes to things like this, like when like a lot of the like when the BLM like protests and stuff started happening and people were coming out and like talking about it, like I also like am the kind of person where like I don't think of myself as this like big content creator where I have this huge platform where I can help people, because I don't have like a big one, it's it's modest size, but at the same time, like I don't like, the first thing isn't for me to think of like, oh man, like how can I help these people? Not because I don't think I can help, but it's because I just don't see like I don't have this like blown up picture of myself as like, man, what I say like really matters. I know a lot of people say like it helps, but like that's just not internalized in me right now, that I have like that much power, I guess, if you want to say that. That's something like I struggle with. Like every time I send a tweet on anything, most of the time I'm thinking, who the fuck cares? Like seriously, who the fuck cares? Like I don't
It's just
like I don't
just dicking around on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, no one's actually gonna care. Like
on top of like there's so many like I have been like retweeting a couple of Crew's posts that I did see like here and there, but like on top of I don't want to like minimize like the people that are actually trying to get their voices out and stuff like that as well. Like it's not about me. Like I'm not opposed to putting out a statement, and I probably will at some point, but it's just that like I it's not about me. And I for me, it felt like this is like the time to almost kind of like let the people that need to talk, help them out, and whatnot, and all that stuff. Like bump up their posts, do whatever I can. I just feel like it's not about me to be like, because there's also this like duality where some people are like, oh, well, you're only posting for the likes, and then some people are like, well, why are you staying silent? Well, which one the fuck is it? Like, do I post and say the same thing every other content creator has already said, or do I stay silent and then get shit for it? It's just like, I probably will. Again, if we weren't shooting this commercial, I probably would have said something, because I do want to help people. I have a lot of like really, really close Black friends, and there's a lot of people of color that I know that support me, because I engage with their posts on Twitter and stuff like that. And I want them to know that I have their back. But it's just like, I just don't understand this environment where it's like you have to put something on Twitter, like with what happened to Sweet. The dude talked about it for like an hour on his stream.
Yeah,
and
that's
people are,
what
like,
I was
giving
gonna bring up. Was like, Yeah, I'll let you finish that last sentence if you need to.
That's all it is. Like, I just don't understand this thing where it's like, it's either you say something or you're staying silent and complicit, and you're complicit with what's happening.
Racism.
It's like,
End of
it's just
story.
that's
No,
not
you're just
the
complicit with
there's
racism.
So Sweet
life is
streamed
not that
for an
black and white.
hour talking about
No,
it, and then people were saying that he should have spoke up on Twitter too.
Well, it's the same thing for me. It's the same thing for pretty much every creator that didn't make a tweet. That's just the honest truth. It's like I've talked about it on stream. I talked about it on stream today for like 3 fucking hours, bro. I've talked about it on stream multiple times. I haven't made a tweet. One of the many reasons I haven't made a tweet was because it's like right now it's important to know that like you're an ally, right? I understand that's important to get out there, but it's also equally, maybe even more important for like people of color to like get their opinions out there
Yeah.
on it and like educate you, because like there's a good chance that you have no idea how deep some of these things are. And if you do understand,
100%.
then that's great. But I still think you should just shut the fuck up. Give it, 24, 48. Like, give it like 4 days. Give it a whole fucking week, man. Let these people of color get their opinions out there so you can have a better educated opinion on your own. I mean, I cannot fucking tell you how many fucking people have watched one of the many podcasts recently on everything going on and have retweeted the podcast and be like, God, I learned so fucking much today. And then yada yada, whatever it may say, right? But it's like that's the fucking that's the point. It's like we need to educate. We need to learn more. We need to get better at this. And I agree with Hodsic completely on the whole stay silent equals you're complicit with racism. It's like it's fucking stupid, man. It's like what if I feel like learning? What if I'm scared to formulate an opinion as a white person, as a white content creator, and put it out there? Because if I slip up on one wording just because I misunderstood something, or God forbid I didn't understand something because it's hard for me to relate, right? And then my career's gone.
Yeah, like
right?
100%. I'm also
there
trying
are
to
so
learn.
many reasons as a white content creator to just keep your mouth shut on these things until you're fully educated. It's hard to like shame it. It's like to be mature in this situation and be honest. It's just like I want to learn. I want to fully understand the whole 9 yards of the situation. I don't want it to just blow over, but I want it to finish. I want myself to be able to grasp the whole 9 yards of it and then be able to tackle the whole thing as a whole and formulate a mature and honest and well-written opinion from a white content creator / pro player who can't fucking relate at all.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if this is like a bad comparison, and I'm like, to piggyback off that point, like I'm scared to say this because I feel like it could get twisted the wrong way. But like I feel like it's kind of like the whole like, oh well, you're white, you can't accept Daltush's apology for us. Totally fair, 100% agree, right? Like if you're white,
I agree.
Why the hell are you accepting Tush's apology? That makes no fucking sense. The joke was not about you. So now we have a lot of people of color like coming out and making really good videos, really good tweets, doing great podcasts like Drum Bum, for example. I know has been a big a voice in that, man. And so like put out like this awesome video. Like, why do you need a tweet from me? I get it. You want to like know that people are your allies, but like I've done stuff in the past, I think that have probably proven it. Like, I support a lot of people in my community. I host them all the time. Not just that. For people are like, oh, well, do you think that's enough? Because I know like this is gonna get like twisted like to some stupid shit. But like during like the start of like of BLM, for 2 weeks, all of my donations went to rebuilding a lot of black-owned businesses, and I made sure to do the research on these because I wanted the money to go to the right place. For 2 weeks, all my donations went straight to, and this is when I wasn't making like really that much money, honestly. But I wanted to help out somehow. I wanted the people that supported me to know that I'm going to try to do what I can. Yeah, so I did 2 weeks of donations went towards rebuilding small businesses for like black owners that, you know, that in a lot of like the riots, not like the protests, but, you know, the ones that like turned really bad, that like they're just honest business owners and they got like their buildings or their whole stores and whatnot destroyed. I put money towards that and all, like 2 weeks worth of donations. Like I've tried to like help, and I try to help and support the community as well.
There's many ways of being an ally. It's not just
Twitter. It's just like I just hate I hate Twitter to begin with. I want to minimize it, but it's a business thing, right? If you're a pro or a content creator, you can't not be on
just
Twitter.
in
You
the
have to
industry
use it.
alone, yeah, you just can't.
So it's
avoid
like,
it.
I haven't been around. I'm not silent because I am complicit with everything that's going on. I do want I thought the appropriate course of action because I also don't know. I wanted to hear people's thoughts. Like Drumbum's video helped a lot.
That dude
Diego's
is so
podcast.
wise.
Diego's podcast helped a lot. I want these voices to be empowered more so than anything. I've been liking and retweeting some stuff, especially that Crew's been saying. Like more so, the reason I mentioned the whole like the white person accepting Daltush's apology as like a similarity, like I would rather have the people of color, like I'd rather try to amplify their voices in a time like this rather than, hey, let me give you what I think. Like, why does it matter as much as a white dude what I think? Like, obviously, I condemn that shit. I have things in the past that like very clearly prove that. I condemn the hell out of it. If you just want to know whether or not you're like my community is a safe space, then yeah, I'll put a tweet. Like I said, I'll probably put a tweet out that says that. But I'd rather empower the voices that are currently speaking now because their voices matter more than mine, despite the numbers I have. I think I could be wrong on that. I don't know, but that's part of the reason why.
I think that's the best thing that we've said, right? Empower them, let them speak, let them be heard, right? Not as much as us, right? It's their story to tell. It's theirs to talk about, right? So
something that I talked about today on stream for like a good 45 minutes. I unpublish all my VODs, by the way, for DMCA reasons and shit. So don't go try to find it. But for anyone there, they can all vouch for it. For like literally a full hour today, I talked about with my chat how disgusting the internet is. I mean, just the amount of trolls from the anonymity. Sorry, I'm tired of the internet. It's just rancid, man.
Yeah.
These people are just hidden behind these screens, and they would never say 99% of the things they say face to face. And it's really disappointing how many haters there are on both sides of something so simple. It's just something racist. Like we brought it up earlier, how like this isn't controversial. It shouldn't be controversial. It's not drama. Like, it's just racist. So it's like it really isn't a big conversation. It's just like, oh, this is what happened. Duh. Let's do better, right? Let's educate. Try to do better, right? And the internet trolls are taking this into something way crazier, where it's like white people are being viewed as racist for just staying silent for whatever many reasons you possibly could have, or just they're just taking so many things out of proportion because of just the internet, man. And I fucking
it's sad. Like
I fucking hate it because they find a way to take good out of these situations, man. Like there is good to come out of this. There really is. That's the beauty, you know. That's the sun in bad moments is growing out of them, educating everyone, becoming a better person that paid any attention. And these fucking morons take so much from it.
It's all like because I think everyone, like, it's no surprise that, you know, gamers can be like a little weird or edgy, but there's like a lot of white edgy gamer dudes that like they just think it's funny to take this struggle that people are legitimately struggling with, of feeling accepted in the community. They're like, like you said, there's probably a lot of them that wouldn't even say it in person, or probably don't even actually like think that way, but they're just white edgy dudes that just make shitty fucking jokes because they like dark humor. It's just, which is just fucking stupid. It's just like
a lot of them are sometimes just stupid, uneducated kids too.
Like you just if you are out there like seeing these people get upset over like a not even potentially a racially charged joke, like even if like you don't think it's like that bad, it actually does more good than bad if you just don't say anything. Just don't say anything. Like, even if you want to call someone a snowflake, like you lack the empathy to see it from their point of view, you do so much more good if you just don't say anything. Like, why do you have to go and try to like stoke the furnace, stoke the fire? Like, there are people all around the world that are struggling with just wanting to be seen as equal as others. I don't know, just shut the fuck up and let them talk.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's been a lot of idiots involved in the situation, but I do want to applaud the Apex community. I think as a whole, overall, this was handled really well. I mean, just looking at situations in Fortnite, like it's not even close to as mature as the response that we've gotten. Just people coming out and speaking on it is is amazing, and that's some of that stuff is just
Well,
condemned in Fortnite, which is ridiculous. So
I mean, you said it in the sentence. You said exactly what it is in the sentence, and it's maturity. Now,
Yeah.
no,
this is not an excuse, man. I cannot be more clear when I say do not clip this out of context. I'm not saying this is an excuse. But a lot of the racism, a lot of the sexism, a lot of the bad things that are very foul in the world that people shouldn't say or make fun of or find humor in are from more immature people, whether it relates to
Yeah.
age or not. I personally do think so. I don't know the facts on it, but it seems to be like a lot of the younger people um like lean towards these more foul things. And I think a lot of it has to do with educating them. I can specifically say for my own case, back in like 2012, playing fucking Xbox lobbies when I'm literally 11, 12 years old, bro. I heard things on the internet then that like the whole COD lobby would be laughing at, or today that would be like cancelable. And the difference between then and now is education, man. It's like we need to move past this. We need to grow as a whole. Like
Yeah.
this is not acceptable. And those jokes were never acceptable, and it sucks that they were at one point. And it's time to like move on, man. And I do strongly believe a lot of it has to do with that like immaturity and typically lower age group.
Dude, that whole COD lobby rhetoric just needs to fucking die already. Like,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you would never survive in a COD lobby. That shit
it's
is
like
that's the
yeah,
dumbest
bro.
excuse for being a fucking idiot that I've ever heard. And
It's like
people won't let it die. They rest on it like it's somehow like a good like
yeah, that's like saying like today's men would never be able to make it through 1945 era. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, because it's a whole fucking different time, bro. Like,
yeah, because they didn't
like
care about
we're
the
literally,
minorities back then either.
yeah,
Like,
like we're like different people. Like you look at for a great example, like um Daltoosh in the like exposing, I guess. I don't know the proper word to use, so don't judge me on that one. But there were tweets linked with some of the videos that like showed him saying like some like homophobic slurs and stuff like that from like 2013, like 2012, and it's like while those are wrong, it's like and you can't vouch specifically for Dalton or Daltoosh because you don't know, but those are so old that like you need to look to Daltush and be like, have you grown for this, or is these are still your same habits? Because there's nothing of that since 2013, right? And
yeah.
I think you're an ignorant piece of shit if anyone in the world is like, yeah, what you did in 2013 is the exact same 9 years later or
Dude,
7 years later.
it's like the
Like,
people that canceled
dude,
Jenna
you're a
Marbles.
dude,
Like,
I don't know anything about that, but it's like,
dude,
dude, the amount of maturing you do between the age for like let's say that was me, bro. That's me going from 13 years old, 12 and 13 years old to fucking 21 years old. The amount of maturing you do in those years is unfathomable. So it's like,
even
oh
past that, dude.
man,
Like, dude, I don't
we
think I like really discovered myself till I was like 26, dude. Like,
yeah,
people
yeah.
see like people think you hit 21 or 18 and you're an adult now and you can do everything that like you're done growing. No, the truth is
So
you don't
much
stop growing.
learning.
You don't
You
stop
never stop
growing until
learning.
like yeah, you never stop learning, but you don't like ever really stop growing as a person until like realistically probably like the 30s, 40s depending on the person, right? Like people see like you hit like mid 20s and they think you should have your life figured out, which is like far from the fucking truth. Like I said, I was I'm 29 now, dude. I was a way different person when I was 25. Way different. You probably wouldn't even fucking believe it. Like there's so much growth that happens. I was just referencing Jenna Marbles thing because she's basically like one of the nicest probably content creators ever, and people dug up stuff from like 12 years ago of her saying I forget exactly what, but it was I think she was I don't remember if it was like a joke or what, but it was basically something from 12 years ago, and she got upset that like that was like she got upset about all of it and she thought she wasn't worthy of making content anymore, and she's a huge YouTuber. Her and her boyfriend or husband, I don't know, were like huge YouTubers, but she's like the nicest person, and she stopped making videos because she felt awful about things that people brought up like 12 years ago, and she's very clearly not like the same person.
Yeah,
It's just
and
silly.
that's circling back to the priority point is like that's again, it's not an excuse. It's just like look for the success stories, look for the educating, look for the growth.
Yeah.
We just sit here and dwell on these people in their past and on their shames and shun them forever. It's like that may do temporary good, but that doesn't do any long term good. We need to like grow. We need to move past this. This shouldn't
Yeah.
even be a topic. Like we said, like it's hard to even believe it's still a thing. It's something we need to like grow through and move on. Like this shouldn't be around. We should be capable as human beings to like see one another as equal.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
100%.
again, focusing on like that isn't an excuse for those people to do that. It's just a lot of it happens to be with the younger age group or people just uneducated. Again, it's equal people younger, and when they're making these sexist jokes on Valorant or wherever it may be, and you hear these 14-year-olds saying yada yada yada, it's like yeah, you respond to them and you're like, what the fuck are your parents doing that they're saying things like this? And that's the honest truth, because it's like, well, what are they doing? And obviously, it's like they probably understand it isn't right, but they probably don't really fathom how wrong it really is. Like I don't know. I can speak for myself. At like 12 years old, as a little youngin being a piece of shit, which we probably all were at 12, if we're all honest. Um, it's like you fathom how bad drugs are, but you really don't understand how bad like some sexist jokes are. You won't understand it at that age just because the education system, at least when I was 12, was so veered towards like stay away from drugs and not at all like equality or anything racial or anything like that. And it's like you really just don't grasp how important all of these topics are. And I think I think the education part should be focused more for schooling. I think it should be focused more in like the gaming community, literally every community. I just think we need to teach more. Like it needs to be very straightforward that these things aren't right.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think that's
There
just the
should
moral of
be
the
like
story, right? Educate.
humor to be found. Yeah.
Education is key, right? People got to grow.
Yep.
Yeah, we
So,
gotta move past this, man. Like this shit's
yeah.
been going on way too long. There is no excuse for you in 2021 to not be capable of seeing the person next to you. Fuck all what they're wearing or what they look like, if they got a dick or not. Like who cares? Like you just gotta do a mess and equal.
Absolutely.
Whether you like it or not,
We're
man.
literally
You could
all.
hate it,
Yeah.
bro. You could hate it and no one cares. As long as you treat them equal, you
Yeah.
could talk behind doors all day, like, yo, I don't like this. But I respect their view, I respect their opinion, and I'll treat them equally.
Yeah. It's
Great,
like
bro. Go crazy.
we're all human beings, man. Like, no one had the choice to be born the way they are, and nobody should be
Yeah.
fucking judged for it either. Like, we all breathe the same air. We're all stuck on the same goddamn rock. Like, it just makes life harder to like
It really is that simple.
Yeah.
inherently hate each other rather than trying to work together and make something happen. I don't know. I don't get it. Never have. It's fucking dumb.
I think that's a good note to wrap it up. I appreciate you guys. You both had so many amazing things to say about that topic.
Do we have any community questions? I know that's something that we do want to highlight. I know you want to wrap it up, but we should.
No,
at
I
least
completely
check.
forgot about that. I
you
know we
did.
put the tweet
That's
out
okay.
late, so it's hard to say if we got any quality.
Well, if we didn't get a
Questions.
single one, then we're ending on a good note, like you said. And if we did get a single one, let's try to be as interactive with them as we possibly can. Oh, um, someone said, "Who is the third for Team Liquid and Conf Apex?" Well, Casper will be back. Sorry if you already answered this before.
Casper's
Casper
not
will
on
not
Team
be
Liquid
back.
anymore.
Casper will not be back, and I don't know. I won't speak for him, but I don't think you're ready to publicly announce any Team Liquid thirds, right?
No, we're not ready. We're still trialing. We're trialing like 3 to 4 people.
Do you want to say who they are, or just keep them in private for now? For the
I
time
mean,
being?
I'll just
That's
keep.
up to you. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, if you care enough, just go back through my VODs. People ask me all the time, and I tell them on my streams. But it's just 3 to 4 people, and if those guys don't end up working out as much as like we plan on it, then there is a chance that I step in anyways, because we typically do pretty well when I play with them. But we're probably. I think we got our eyes centered on like 1 or 2 people for sure.
This is an interesting question. We already touched on it, I think, at the beginning of the episode, but just to be a little bit more short and sweet, how much analytical work does an Apex coach help compared to like traditional coaching? For instance, is the analytics most impactful part of an Apex Legends coach? Absolutely. the analytical work that a coach does for an
Yeah.
Apex team right now is by far the most impactful.
I
It's not,
mean,
it shouldn't, and it isn't close.
it's I mean, BR is such an interesting space where like if you look at any other esport or any other traditional sport, when you're like, analyze, like obviously there's a lot that goes into it. I don't want to boil it down to like, oh, it's easy, but it's always one other team you're playing against. You can easily like watch tapes or VODs, go back and like, brew up a strategy that could like, counter basically what your the enemy team or opponents are doing. Apex isn't quite like that. It's very, very different. And I think it's for any of the coaches involved, myself included, for sure. Like I'm still learning how to do it. Like it's because now you don't have just one team to worry about. You have 19 other teams to worry about. And then like, are they switching up the way they play normally? Like there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of like kind of like deep learning and understanding of the game and trying to figure all that out. It certainly is a lot of work, which is, I said earlier, like I'd much rather be a player. Because it is a lot of work, and being a player, I think, is actually, in a way, it's easier because you just have to kind of like, obviously you still have to critically think and perform, but you don't have to worry about all like it's very time consuming to go through people's VODs and pick up on, because you have to pick up on the smallest little patterns, smallest little things to understand how people play. It's super time consuming work, but there is a lot of it for sure.
We got two more. The last question is going to be a banger. So if you're somehow still here, thank you, one. And two, stay around for this last question. But this is the second to last question. We'll both have a go at this one. What's your opinion on aim trainers? Let's try to be a little short and sweet with these last two questions.
Yeah. I typically tell people it's good for, it's like, I honestly kind of equate it to like the gym, right? Like you could sit there and work out at the gym all day and get, strength up and whatnot. But, at some time you do have to also apply it to the game. Aim training is very good to stay sharp. It's very good if you're learning mechanics, or it's very good if you're trying like new things. Like I used to be a wrist aimer forever. I swapped to full arm aiming after Poland, and I used aim trainers like crazy to get confident with that. And I think aim trainers are very good for that. But don't just grind aim trainers all day. You still also have to you also have to do the drills of actually playing the game too, if you want to get very good. But aim trainers are good. Definitely a good thing to do.
I'm going to take a couple steps back from that one. I don't fully agree. I don't fully disagree. I think aim trainers, in essence, like to an extent, are kind of a scam. I strongly believe for every game, it's a very different scenario. I think for like Valorant and Counter-Strike, aim trainers can be much more valuable to realize. But for a game like Apex with a very high velocity and so many weird strafe patterns and different scenarios with characters with different hitboxes and different angles and domes and so many abilities to manage. I think aim trainers for Apex in specific are absolutely fucking awful. I can't tell you how many people have come to me in my stream and asked me about how I got better, because no one will disagree that I'm like one of the most, if not the most improved player from like beginning of Apex time till now, mechanically at least. That was fucking dog shit at the beginning, and I preach that you should not be using aim trainers unless you're at the beginner level. I think aim trainers are the most crucial part of learning PC. If you are new to PC, you should be spending more time on aim trainers than the actual game at the very beginning. It will actually do so much for you, you don't understand. Like the fundamentals are crazy you get from aim trainers. But after a certain point where you're capable of holding yourself up, putting hours into any game you play is 99% more valuable than putting that time into an aim trainer. And the reason why is game sense. If you look at Valorant, you look at League of Legends, you look at Apex, game sense can actually carry you much further than your aim can. And that's just because of the nature of the games. So with that being said, it's very, very important, in my professional opinion, to be putting that time into the game rather an aim trainer once you're at that level, And that's up to you to judge. That's not opinion.
Well, I think a better way to put it, right, is you think that you should put your time into the game instead of wasting time on the aim trainer. But to Hodsic's point, it's a good tool. Like in between games, like there's long queues sometimes. If you want to stay sharp before a tournament and you can't actually play the game, there's a waiting period, right? They can be useful in those aspects for sure.
I was gearing my response mostly to like, I'm assuming people are asking from like the entry level. Like I don't think that's a pro asking that question, right? I was more gearing it towards like, somebody learning MNK.
Probably. I disagree with what you said there, TFG. I think like doing aim trainers between games or like in between like LGS events, I think that's probably like really, 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 really awful. because, well, it may breed a little bit of like confidence you didn't have from the match before. Let's say the match was a bad game before. I think the unrealisticness of aim trainers relating to specifically Apex is like problematic for aim trainers. I think with the amount of abilities and the different strafes and again the different character sizes and so many different things that these aim trainers just can't perfectly mimic. I think it's actually bad for Apex. I think I personally at the pro level how I got in here, I think I'd rather scroll Twitter for 8 minutes than sit on aim labs for 8 minutes or whatever.
I personally, I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, maybe you don't have the issue of staying warm, right? But
No,
I've competed
I
for
definitely. I'll
8
be
years,
honest.
right? People get cold. You want to stay warm
Yeah.
for sure.
I will do it. I will do it every now and then, like when I'm just like, because I don't think I don't believe in the whole like like muscle memory thing. Like I think Al's a perfect example of that. That motherfucker changes his sense every like damn day. I think what's important is that you just understand how to like use a mouse and keyboard. Your body understands how to do it. There are times if I'm like sitting, if I have a lot of down period, I don't aim train all that much. I probably should more, to be honest, because I think there's a level of mechanics that I want to get to that I still can. But yeah, I'm kind of in the. I still think they're helpful, but I do agree with Zach's sentiment. At a certain point, you should be just putting more. Once you get to a certain point of
100%,
mechanics,
yeah.
just put it
put
away.
more
bro.
time. Put more
Just
time into the
uninstall it.
game.
There's no reason you should be picking to aim train on an aim trainer over playing the game, right?
Especially a battle royale. Like you can have
Yeah.
the best mechanics in the world, but still be shit
Dog
because you
shit.
don't because you can't
horrible.
identify a good push from a bad one.
All right, this is the banger question, and it's gonna be really hard to make it short and sweet because with that easy question, I fucked it up. So this one is gonna be rough, but we can try, I guess, make it a weak effort. What is the best way for someone to get recognized by an esports organization if they are an up and coming Apex scene? Can you explain the answer for the newer folks? What does? Oh no, that's just the entire question. All right, so I'll reword it because I'm an idiot.
I could probably hit this one pretty quick.
What is the best way for someone to get recognized by an esports organization if they're up and coming in the Apex scene?
I mean, I could probably hit it pretty quick. I don't think you need like too crazy of a situation. The scene's already like starting to establish a little bit, so obviously it's a bit tougher. But there are orgs. There are orgs coming back. There are more orgs in the world than there are orgs in Apex. So there's orgs that are definitely going to be interested. The best way now. Before it was just getting to the top. It's not the same anymore. You can't just be good at the game. You have to because those players are already 100% solidified. There are a lot of people that grind stream hours and just sit there, bang out like I'm dropping 4Ks left and right. Like why does no one watch me? It's not good enough anymore. You have to make unique content, and you have to start on other platforms. I think if you're starting from the bottom now, because Apex is already kind of solidified to a degree. There's still a lot of room. You know, new people are coming up and coming all the time, but it's because they diversify on other platforms. Like see Fade. Fade's been around since the beginning. Didn't have much at the beginning. He started making big banger YouTube videos, and now look at him. Hollow is another one as well. That man's been around for a long time.
Lyric.
He made Lyric as well. Hollow made like crazy Twitter montages that like of just hey look at me, my aim is really good, and they popped off, and now he's doing well. It's all about numbers, and Twitch. Just grinding Twitch is a very bad mentality. You definitely want to be, but numbers on all platforms. Discoverability on Twitch is ass. Work on other platforms for discoverability, and then try to get those people that are like you on other platforms. Eventually, get them to Twitch. Is probably like a very kind of short answer, I think. And also do something unique, like I said, because
I was just gonna say that.
All
It's
the
all
good
about
people
being
are already
unique,
there.
bro.
Yeah.
Some of the most growth I've seen organically on my own like stream, for example, was when I started doing VOD reviews. I didn't keep up doing them because I liked doing them, but doing them too much I just got bored. But doing unique content that people haven't seen or something like that, but on other platforms, get noticed first, take it over to Twitch.
Yeah. What is the best way for someone to get recognized by an esports organization? I mean, my fucking pinned tweet is literally just play. Like I'm not exaggerating. If you go check my Twitter, that's my pinned tweet. I think the best way you can get noticed by an organization is be the best in the world. I don't think there's I mean, to put it into perspective and why my opinion is this, I'll try to be quick, is I literally came from nothing. This is my first game I've ever played like competitively.
Same,
Before this,
actually.
I've never played anything competitively. Look to like a couple years ago, literally 2 years ago, I was in college, just like failing out of college, just having fun, like barely grinding video games at all, if playing any like it looked like less than 6 years ago, my dad was literally like breaking my video games so that I would be focusing more on sports. Like I don't have that big, oh, I played H1 background or this and that. It's like nothing will get you further than a good work ethic, and that's just a fact. If you have the best work ethic of everyone around you, you will go far. If you consistently outwork the people you surround yourself with at the top level, you will go far. And that's how I got to where I am. 100%. That's the success I owe to. I have over 7K hours in the game, and I can confidently say less than 700 of them are or like 700 or less are like inactive hours. So I 100% have over like 6,200 hours, and that's a ridiculous amount of playtime for any of the pros in the game. I'm definitely in the upper echelon. I literally worked my ass off to get here. I played when I hated the game. I played when I loved the game. I played because I want to be the best, and I want to get there, and I'm far from it, right? And it's the same for you, man. If you're up and coming in any game, especially esports, and you want to have your shot, you want to get recognized by an org, outwork everyone around you. Put in 250 hours a month when you're streaming, even when it's one fucking viewer, and every time you get a chat message or a follow, be just as interactive as if it's a fucking raid from ASU, man. Like care a lot. Make sure that people that do hang out with you and do give you their time, like you care about them, you're kind with them, and then work harder than everyone else around you, and 100% you'll make it. 100%. Esports is definitely all about knowing people. Unfortunately, it's more about knowing people than actually being the best. But if you're capable of being a good person and you're the best, oh, bro, you go so fucking far. You really do. So,
I also want to real quick. That's actually, I mean, that's life in general. Like every company will hire someone that is like has a personal vouch, within the company, more than like someone that, or more likely than someone who's like maybe a slightly more qualified. So, but I want to like on top of all of that, don't be a piece of shit and burn bridges early. I see so many people like that even like compete in Apex that have like small followings that are trying to make it, and they just like say the dumbest shit and like just make really bad impressions of of themselves to other people on Twitter. Like be 30 million times more aware of your social media presence and what you say and what you do than you ever like have thought before hearing this. Because everything you like, you can just say, you can have one bad tweet where like someone thinks weird of you, and that could hurt your chance potentially for like an org. I promise you, because Team Liquid was looking into like signing more content creators, and we threw out a bunch of names and ideas, and there was like one little small thing here and there that stopped us from hiring a content creator or signing one rather. So like be extra cognizant. Don't be a piece of shit. Like everyone's trying to make it at the end of the day. They're trying to do the same thing you are. So just be fucking respectful to people at the end of the day. You don't have to like everyone. Just don't be an asshole.
100%. That's well put. I think you guys hit almost everything on. The only thing I would add is know what you want to do, right? Like maybe you want to be a content creator. If you want to be a content creator, focus on the right things, right? Knowing you have to be unique, put out unique content. If you do want to be the best pro player in the world, focus on the right things. How do you become the best, right? Watch other pros. Do VOD reviews, stuff like that, right? So make sure you allocate your hours into the right things, because if you don't, then you're just going to be like all the other people who are mindlessly grinding, right? And there's just not enough spots for all of you. But yeah, I mean, unless you guys have anything to add, I think we're good, huh?
That's good, I think.
All right. What an awesome episode. This one almost went 2 hours.
Sorry.
Zach looks tired. How you feeling, Zach? You tired?
I'm fucked, bro. I'm so dead, man. My sleep schedule has literally been like polar opposite every other day for the past like weeks. So my body has no schedule, no clock. My like stomach is constantly rotted. I feel like shit. My stream hours are whack. Everything's going to shit. I woke up at like 10 p.m. yesterday. It's 6:14 today. I've eaten like 3 times and like failed to food coma every single time. I'm like so dead. It is disgusting. So yes, I'm ready. I am ready.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a comment, a like on the video. We'll be back next week. Maybe let us know who you want to see on, but that's it for us. See you guys later.